Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 19th regular board meeting for the Milford Exempted Village School District. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Espy, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I have an agenda in front of me, and I have an addendum to that agenda. I need a motion to approve both the agenda and the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call a roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes as you have received them.
So moved. Second.
Those are for the December 15th meeting. I did not state that. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Spicer, our superintendent.
Thank you, President Miranda, members of the board. This evening, we do have Mulberry Elementary here. We have Mr. Josh Kaufman, our Director of Fine Arts, Extracurricular Activities, and I'm going to turn it to him.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Spicer. Thank you, Board of Education. It's my privilege and honor again to recognize some of our featured artists from throughout the district. If I could invite our featured artists from Mulberry Elementary to please come line up here. And I'd like to, as they're lining up, give a special thank you to Principal Greb and Mrs. Winslow, who is their wonderful art teacher that has stewarded the fine pieces of artwork that you see behind me. Students, as I call your name, if you'll come up, I have a certificate for you. So I'd first like to recognize Brooke Dorshug. Brooke has the artwork on the end, which is the mandala with the hands and the heart. It's beautiful. Congratulations, Brooke. Then we have Hallie Ainslinger. Hallie has one of the, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Has one of the, which I find quite ironic, they're beautiful, record album artworks. And do you know what a record is? Do you? Okay. They stopped making them like before you were born, right? It's beautiful. It's great. Congratulations. Congratulations. Randy Lowe. Randy has, the second with the orange background artwork here. Randy, great job. Do you know what a record is? All right. All right. When I was in school, they were smaller, and we called them CDs. We have Kate Hyatt. She has the geometric portrait right here. Kate, congratulations. We have Gabrielle House. Gabrielle has the wonderful veterans drawing here. Well done. We have Violet Sieber. Violet has the abstract watercolor art right here. Beautiful. Great job. Lucy Poirier has the lines painting watercolor, second from the right. Beautiful, Lucy. Great job. Great job. Nice job, Violet. Congratulations. And then we have Joshua Burke. Joshua has the flag collage directly behind me here. Oh. Congratulations, buddy. Good job. Awesome. Congratulations to our featured artists from Mulberry Elementary. And again, a special thank you to Mrs. Winslow, Mrs. Greb, for celebrating the arts in your building. And as always, I'd like to just share a couple highlights of the arts over the past month or so. We had 105 of our marching band students from the high school celebrated their every 4-year trip over the past week to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. They took over Main Street, USA, and performed a parade down Main Street for thousands of onlookers. The video of that parade can be found on the district's Facebook page. Our drama department at the high school is in the midst of preparing for their production of Pride and Prejudice, which will take place on February 10th and 11th. All performances will take place at the Z, and tickets can be purchased online. And then immediately after Pride and Prejudice, they will begin preparing for the last High School musical in the theater in the Z, which will be The Wizard of Oz. Those tickets will go on sale in a couple weeks. Those shows will sell out. That will be the last full production of the high school drama department before the renovation. It will sell out. The weekend after that, the junior high students will be doing their version of Wizard of Oz. And we have a record number, 32 students have come out to audition for that show. So that's exciting for Milford Drama. And then finally, next month on February 21st, our high school choir program is preparing. They were invited to be the introductory kickoff performance for the American Choral Directors Association National Conference, and their performance will be at the Aronoff Center on February 21st. So great things happening in the arts, and as always, appreciate your support and the platform to celebrate our students in the district. Thank you.
Josh, stay up there.
Yes, sir.
All right, two items.
Yes.
When you said smaller records and you called them CDs, I thought you were going to say 45s.
45s.
So that actually dates me, not you. But could you just briefly talk about the Wizard of Oz collaboration between the two groups?
Yes, thanks for mentioning that. Director Derringer at the high school had a wonderful idea, and we're going to try to do this maybe every third or fourth year. So the high school is doing Wizard of Oz as the musical, and so is the junior high. And what it's going to enable us to do is some of the junior high students will actually be in the high school production, they will be in the ensemble, and they will also understudy for the lead roles of the high school production. So heaven forbid we end up with a sick Dorothy. We've got a Dorothy that we can plug in there. If she gets swept away in a tornado, we've got a backup. But then the next week, those understudy junior high students will step into those lead roles and have a chance to do a performance of their own. So it's a great opportunity for, with a production with such a large cast as Wizard of Oz has, to expand that and involve a large number of students, but also for our junior high students to get a chance to see what the high school program is like. I kind of jokingly share, Director Derringer asked all of the students that audition and are going to be participating in the Wizard of Oz to sign an agreement that they understood they were with junior high students and that their behavior had to reflect appropriateness for junior high students. And I thought that was really a good thing in terms of recognizing that and making sure it's going to be an environment that can embrace those students. So we're super excited for both those performances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to me, President Miranda. This month is Board Member Appreciation Month, and so I'd like to just take a few minutes just to make sure that everyone knows and understands that school board members take a lot of time out of their monthly calendars. They're involved. They set policy for us. They ensure that, that we are a source of pride for the district and the community, that we're reaching out to all of our residents, increasing our accountability and our transparency, and making sure that Milford students receive a quality education. But what we do know is that everything you do is always thinking about students in mind, students at the center of everything that we do. You show this through the discussions that you have at our monthly meetings, certainly our committee meetings, and we know that you're present. You're here at board meetings, committee meetings, Google Meets. It's countless. For some of you, it's a full-time job, and we really appreciate that. Mr. Miranda, that full-time job is yours, for sure. And we appreciate that. We really do. We know that everyone here puts a lot of time. I would just ask that just hold your applause for me here in the audience. I want to recognize each of you. Please stand, and then I do have something a little special for each of you. Dave Miranda, Board President. Emily Chestnut, Board Vice President. Jerry Combs, Emily Mason, and Melissa Nolan. So thank you for all you do for us, and we appreciate you not just in January, but every month. So thank you. Yeah, hold from the bottom.
Thank you.
Oh,
You're not going to ask me to drink from
Yeah.
This is even better.
See if it was tickled.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I used that on my safari this summer.
There you go.
Okay. Board of Education business. Committee meetings and work sessions. I guess I'm a little lost here.
Do you want me to start with this? I
Yes,
requested
please,
this.
please.
Is this thing on? I requested this after Melissa actually brought it up in the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago when we were setting up our committees. It was, why are we structured like this? Should it be, should it not? And so we had a conversation after that meeting. And I just wanted this as just kind of a discussion. I don't really have an action item specifically today, but Melissa had asked, why do we have separate meetings? Do we need to? And so I kind of dug in, and I think she did as well. So I talked to people from Oak Hills, school board, they have 5 members. They don't regularly hold committee meetings. They kind of do as needed, although they just changed, they were gonna vote on it. I don't know what they ended up doing. Great Oaks does 35 board members, and they just do all their committee meetings right ahead. Everybody serves on one board, on one committee. Claremont Developmental Disabilities that I served on for 8 years, there are 7 board members there, and each board member serves on 1 or 2 committees that meet once or twice a year. So looking at the other types of boards that are meeting, I think it really boils down to what's our need to help, the administrator give feedback and that sort of stuff. And so our conversation was, do we keep the current? Do we, what makes the most sense? So that was kind of why I wanted to open up the discussion. I don't know, Melissa?
So when Emily and I talked, I told her I was going to do some research, and I've had some personal things taking up my time, and I have not. But I did initiate this conversation because I've talked to other people over the course of the last year. Similar to what Emily said, I have a good friend that's on the Oak Hills board. Same thing, they don't have committee meetings, but I find not a lot, but a good percentage of what we do talk about in committees is redundant and repeated in multiple committees. And I just wonder the total time savings if we just did one meeting and we didn't have to double check, like, did you hear this? Did you hear this? At the different, like, what is the total time savings by having everybody, kind of volley off of each other, ask questions, kind of like a work session. I mean, it would be a work session where everyone's learning from each other and the questions that people ask, instead of, what did you talk about this? And then a lot of after talk and a lot of repeating and stuff like that. So.
And I'll say, so this is our 4th year, but so Dave and I have each had 3 full years, and I've served on 2 or 3 committees each year. And my approach to committee work has been, I focus on those committees, and I trust my board members. You guys are focusing on yours, so I don't have the bandwidth to focus on all 7 committees and every month. So I trust the work, and I feel like that has worked well, across the board. And then it allows me to engage on the years that I'm on finance or buildings and grounds, and then on curriculum years and that sort of stuff. It kind of gives me a view across. After 3 years, I had the opportunity to serve on each of them. So that was kind of my approach. And I do think it's important to note, which we just had a work session, we have big things coming on finance and buildings and grounds for the next 2 years. So if we were to look at doing like a work session, my concern with the work session is that I can't commit to 5-hour work sessions every month, absolutely as needed, but I personally like the committees that we can kind of attend, and of course everybody's welcome to attend, but for this upcoming year, those 2 committees are really heavy. So.
The other thing that Emily and I discussed was the possibility of maybe kind of combining a couple of them, like, for instance, like curriculum and personnel often have the same things we're talking about, usually a long list of employees where we're not ever going to vote no. I think some of that could suffice by Jenny putting like a couple sentence line on the different categories, like we need these people because, like, we're not going to ever say no to those, or we might question, but if that avoids a separate personnel committee meeting of everybody's, hour and a half of time, that could be combined with like curriculum, and you could put a couple sentences, we're doing these, extra hour and a half because of this, and then if we have a question, we can say, hey, why do we have this? I don't know, it just seems like a better use of everyone's time.
Well, you're absolutely right. There are some synergies among the different meetings. Finance and Building and Grounds is the other one that comes to mind. And actually, the last week when we did our Finance and Building and Grounds, we started at 7:30, we ended at 10:30. And they were an hour and a half each. And everybody was there, either via computer or in person. We had perfect attendance for those committees, and it still, hearing that, still took that period of time. And to your point, we got a lot on our plate in those committees, so we want to make sure that we're getting those right. Personally, I don't think I would move that. I would be open to anything else that pleases the board. As you all know, and as Mr. Spicer said, I'm at every meeting. I'm retired. I have lots of time on my hands, and I just schedule to be there.
That is true.
So I at this point, however you choose to do it, I am fine with it. But I do see the synergies between Building and Grounds and Finance and Personnel and CNI.
When Melissa and I were talking, and I should note that neither Melissa and I are on personnel, we're like, we should cut personnel. So, like, not that we're cutting people out of a job, but that is one that I think there are a couple months a year when we review. Jenny does a great job in the spring reviewing staffing and where we need to move people for the year. And if that was to be combined together, perhaps then those folks, folks could move to another committee if they want. I wanted to make sure to know that Melissa and I were not cutting the personnel committees out by the knees. But I kind of think that maybe we review it again in before we get to next January. Like if we talk about if we see how it's going, and then we talk about it again in the fall, so that if we want to make changes, then when we make committee assignments in January, we'll be able to rearrange them better. So I don't propose any changes right now, but would be open to.
That sounds like a good idea to me. My only concern with combining them is that, one, it makes a really, really long meeting. Also, some of these committees, like you said this year with Buildings and Grounds and Finance, we're bound to run over an hour, definitely. Some of these meetings run 2 hours, and I think that it would be kind of a lot to have all the committees kind of combined into one session. That would be a lot of time. However, as Dave pointed out, when we had our meetings last week, we had attendance where all of us were there, and it was nice to be able to have more information by being in more of the meetings. So I think that that's a good thing, that we're able to drop in and out of these committees as needed. And it's really nice to understand what's going on, but also to know that you have at least 2 board members on a committee that you can be counting on to have more in-depth knowledge of that committee.
I like the idea of a proposal as we move on this year, and if there is an opportunity to combine, hey, let's just present it. I'm all for trying to be as efficient, but more importantly, as effective as we can be.
Well,
So
right now, we've got them stacked. We've got
yeah,
P&G right after Finance, and we've got CNI and Personnel back to back.
And I personally like that much better, because that allowed like one day, and that's why I was able to come to all of them, because it was all like back to back in the morning and back to back in the afternoon.
I like that as well, because
And
I still wanted to stay. I wanted to stay on Finance, and when I'm not, I'm like, well, yes, I am, because I'm showing up for the committee meeting. And by the way, I think most of you in the audience and maybe on video realize what we do in committee. But as another quick reminder, Dave smiles at this because I probably remind everyone this at least every other month. That's where all the work is done. You see us, and I call us affectionately bobbleheads, by saying yes. Yes, it's because we've talked through a lot of these decisions in committee, and when we finally land here for the yes or the no, if you didn't participate in committee, just know that as someone in the public, just know that we've talked through these issues, in some cases pretty robustly, and landed in a spot in front of you with the bobblehead yes or the bobblehead no. So that's where the work is done. These are really important to us. It's interesting, thanks for doing the due diligence about what other districts are doing and other boards. I like the stacking. That is one positive change that we took this year. And we'll see how it goes. As the year unfolds, we can discuss another proposal. I'm all for it.
And the stacking, as much as I'd love to take credit for that, was totally organic. It just happened while we were sitting here at the organizational meeting. By the time we got done, we went, oh,
Yeah.
here's where we are. So,
Yep.
And I will say about as much as I research or talk to other places, what it kind of boiled down to me is like everybody works way different, and so it's what works for us. So even if everybody else did all work sessions, but that's not what worked for us, I wouldn't feel pressured that Milford has to
I agree.
follow the herd.
yeah, and Emily and I have been at this for 3 years. We're the senior members on the board here, and this is all we know. So, doesn't say that it can't be changed, doesn't say that it can't be improved. We would love to do that. Let's just figure out what works for everybody, and maybe the next year something else works.
Another public service announcement. I encourage everyone that's watching or in this building to please attend as many committee meetings as you can. You'll learn a lot about what we discuss and all the decisions that are made, so.
And it counts for junior honor society hours or whatever all the students. You can come during the day.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
Nope, that was it. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. We now move on to the next item of business, and that is calendar approval. I need a motion to approve the school year's calendars. I think we've all seen those.
This actually needs to be a first reading. This cannot be an approval. You have to have two readings, just like policy.
Okay.
So I would ask that we're just going to talk about this a little bit. There will
Okay.
be no motion. So my apologies for making that error on this.
Go ahead and share what you would like to us
Awesome. All
and to
right.
the audience.
So 22-23 school year, there are some changes.
23, 24.
23, thank
Not
you.
this year. Not this year. We're not changing anything this year.
There we go. So the 23-24 school year calendar is already in place. There have been a couple changes. I think what's important for our families to know is that the extended breaks, et cetera, nothing has changed there. So that if you have booked a vacation, you're still good to go. There are a couple changes. Those changes would be, for instance, the day before, the Friday before Labor Day becomes a teacher work day. It gives them an opportunity. They've had students for 2.5 weeks to assess where they are with their students, reorganize, et cetera. So that is in there. Also, you will see that there are work days at the end of quarters 1, 2, and 3. We do have a presidential primary election days. Those will become remote learning days. So they'll be counted as school days. They will be remote learning days. There will be something assigned on those days. There will be something going on. So it's not just a freebie, you're at home. The other one is that here's something that is not on there that was brought to my attention, and it was brought to my attention about 2 years ago. April the 8th is a total solar eclipse. Starts at 1:52 p.m., ends at 3:08 p.m. So should that be a day that families want to do something with their kids and check it out? It doesn't happen very often. It has happened before, probably, I want to say 5 years or 6 years ago it happened.
It was sooner than that.
Early dismissal.
Yeah,
But
4, 5, 6
But
years ago.
we're also close to the totality range.
And we are. So the northern parts of greater Cincinnati, I think, is better for that. So anyway, so you might see something around that. Anyway, I think it's a great day for us to.
What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything just yet. It could be a remote learning day, go do something, or it could be, we're going to focus on the solar system and science on that day and have some great lessons. I think there is also this, if I recall correctly from the last time, we had a pretty good fear of like kids just going outside and staring at the sun. That's not good during a total eclipse. So anyway, I bring that up because I'm a science nerd. The 24-25 calendar really just mirrors the 23-24. There is a primary election, that's a student remote day in May. The 25-26, you will see that there are two possible calendars for this. The reason being the new middle school in construction. So I'm asking you to approve both, knowing that it could be one or the other. We should know which one soon, and then if we run into problems, then we'll drop back and punt to the after Labor Day start. The after Labor Day start is not pretty. It does cut fall break. It does put us into June. So we just want to make sure families are aware of that. But working with Conger Construction, SHP, we should have a pretty good idea where we are well before then. But we just want to make sure that folks know that that is a possibility. The other possibility would be, we could make a decision that we're going to go with a quote normal calendar, and then 6 through 8 for the first 2-3 weeks would be remote. Not a great idea, or not the best learning.
We have done it before.
But we have done it before. But that is something that could happen, so that the entire district, and we can stay on a quote normal schedule and not go into June. So when we did a survey a couple years ago, staff and families made it pretty clear that they like starting, mid-August. They like getting out before Memorial Day and having June and July and a couple weeks into August. So those are the calendars, and then we would ask for an approval of these in February. Any questions that I can answer for anyone?
Can we consider another survey before we make that decision?
Sure.
For the 25, 26 calendar? I think that would be helpful.
Sure.
Just to be as informed as possible heading in there,
Okay.
especially if we're
This soon or once we know more
once we know
about
more.
construction?
Yeah, once we know more about construction.
Oh,
What?
absolutely.
Yeah.
What-
If there is a real possibility of this remote learning option.
Oh, sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
I just want to make sure
Yes,
that,
yes.
that this isn't catching anybody by any surprise.
Absolutely. That's-
And I know that's why you're in front of it 2 and 3 and 4 years ahead. It's just, that's a pretty drastic change.
It is.
If that is something that has to be done, and I just want to make sure that we've got some public input there, that's all.
Yes.
And we always do these in 3-year increments, as I,
Well, not always. We just started doing that a couple years ago. So,
okay, well, that's
yes.
always for me.
Yes, it is always for you.
But would it be possible to do 2 years and let the other one hang out there until you're a year down the road and add it in later? Does that make any sense?
I think that it's one or the other. I mean, so it literally is going to be, we're just gonna make sure that we're on time and it's done and we're in that building August 1, or we'll know, I think we'll know within 6-8 months or so, probably, we're in trouble, we gotta go after Labor Day. So we'll know well in advance.
As a working parent, I really appreciate having these two calendars that may be very different so far in advance, because I do think that it allows for more planning on parents' parts.
And I think you mentioned this when you emailed it to us. It is a district calendar, but really it's 6 to 8 that's impacted there. So we also have preschool, really, pre-K 5, and then 9-12, whose buildings are not changing.
Yeah, that's where the ideas of, okay, what ideas could we come up with to continue to go at a normal calendar, if you will, even though the middle school may not be ready till after Labor Day, and that was just one idea. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just one idea. It's not the answer. Could be something else. It could just be that we start after Labor Day.
We'll just keep putting a lot of pressure on Jeff to get it done. Thanks,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes, Conger Construction.
I like the 3-year plus view. I think it's great. So, thank you for that. I think our parents appreciate that.
Okay, anything else? Okay, let's move on to our first session of public participation, public commentary. Do we have anyone?
We do not have anyone for the first session.
Okay. So we can move off of that, and I'm going to ask Mr. Espy to take over and provide the treasurer's report for us.
Thank you, President Miranda and members of the board. I just wanted to give a brief update on the finances. We are currently at 50%, so halfway through the fiscal year. Nothing's really standing out in terms of being, essentially ahead or behind in terms of where we are from that percentage. One thing that you'll see on the all funds summary is that some of the grants have been expended a little bit greater than 50%. That's just due to we get a set amount of grant-funded items, and then after that, the general fund would pick up any of those items, but those are currently in the appropriations. The operating fund did have investment income of $40,435.24 for a fiscal year-to-date total of $159,330.08. The construction fund saw $49,364.01 in interest, with a fiscal year-to-date amount totaling $529,871.78. I did want to note that we're currently in the process of continuing to reinvest that $44 million that matured in November. It's been a little bit of a slow go on that, just because the interest rates were fluctuating so much. We were getting ready to kind of pull the trigger on investing some of those funds prior to Mr. Jaffray leaving, and we were advised by our advisor at Fifth Third to wait, and we did. And then, so we're still continuing to reinvest those funds in pieces that make sense with the drawdown schedule for the new middle school. We also met with Bradley Payne Advisors as well as Densmore, our legal counsel, to continue looking at a proceeding with bank qualifying debt of $10 million for a 15-year term to finance the Nest Athletic Facility. Those conversations are going to go on, and we're going to be bringing in resolutions in future months to get that process underway, issue the debt, and be able to use those proceeds to start on that project. Additionally, as you saw tonight from the board members and those of you that were watching online, that there is a new 5-year forecast that will be brought in February to account for the utilizing of the analytic software that we have now, as well as the capital projects and changes with the information that we've received since the November and the November forecast, I should say. And then the timeline is going to be moving the transfers and pulling those out of the general fund, so we're not overstating our general fund, and actually recognizing items that are already earmarked for other means by transferring out and putting them in the PI fund, which is just a best practice, not only by treasurers and business managers, but also GFOA. I actually did a lot of work with the OASBO, which is Ohio Association of School Business Officials, and that is the best practice when you have these kind of capital expenditures, to remove the money from the general fund and stand it up in a PI fund, basically with its own bucket of money to track those projects. Any questions?
So I need a motion to approve Mr. Espy's report, treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just so everyone knows, we had a work session for an hour prior to this meeting, and we dug into the revised forecast. We talked about a levy. We talked about all the capital improvements and how they're impacting our fiscal year. Appreciate all that work. So once again, as we move through the yeses in about 30 seconds, you'll know we just spent 60 minutes digging in a little bit deeper, or a lot deeper. So thanks for putting that together for us again.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Go ahead and call the roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. Moving to superintendent's business, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Miranda, members of the board. I'll call your attention to Addendum 1, and that is what I'm asking you for your approval of the Milford Tri-Health Beacon Sports Medicine Collaboration Agreement, starting in July 1 of 2023.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, go ahead, Mr. Spicer, you can present this for the group.
So Aaron Zepka and I have met with a couple different providers. Mercy Health is our current provider. They've been a provider for a very, very long time. They did submit a proposal to us, met with them, discussed with them, and Beacon Orthopedics Tri-Health came in with a very aggressive proposal. That's why it's sitting in front of you. It's a 5-year agreement with them, $100,000 per year with 3 athletic trainers. Mercy's offer proposal to us was a 3-year, $50,000 with 2 athletic trainers. And so that's why you have the current one in front of you today.
I think a quick thank you to Mercy for the years is necessary. It's been a good partnership. And, you know, John and Aaron, when we're scrutinizing as much as we can, and the 2 proposals, they really didn't compare as much as the great support that we received from Mercy. It was just, it would be fiscally irresponsible for us to turn away from this in full candor. So thank you for all the work. Not only is there additional dollars, there's an additional trainer for our athletes, and yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a respectful goodbye and a hello to a new partner that we hope is just as good, if not better than the previous. So thank you.
I think I know we've run over 20 years with Mercy, and they've Dr. Noyes and Al and everybody that's involved have done a wonderful job, been very supportive, and always been willing to listen to our needs. However, it's pretty hard to turn away from that 3rd trainer that we so desperately need to cover all the teams that we have. So, you know, we're sorry to see people that we know so well go, but, you know, you gotta, sometimes change just has to happen, and I think this is one of those times. Anyone else? Okay, with no more discussion, let's call the roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you.
The next item under superintendent's business is the middle school update. I'm going to ask Jeff Johnson to come up. He has some interesting maps that he would like to share with us. I think everything else at this point is still the same in terms of design development. We're still there. We're still working through estimates, et cetera. But I think this map, most interesting for everyone to see.
I know these drawings get a little difficult to look at when you're looking at our entire campus, but I wanted to give some updates on what we're going to see here in the near future as well as over the next couple of years. You can look and see the red line around the site. That represents a construction fence. There's going to be one here on the north side of the current junior high, as well as enclosing both the Nest construction site as well as the middle school site. That construction fencing is going to go up in April. I don't know if it's April 1st or April 20th, but it's going to go up right around April. In the summer of '23, Eagles Way in this orange is going to get relocated and moved south, closer to the baseball field and the tennis courts. Currently, the design shows moving the light at Wolf Pen to the south. That most likely, due to permitting and other things, won't happen this summer. We're pushing it. We're going to try, but we don't think that we'll probably be able to pull that off with the county. So we're still working on exactly what that's going to look like to get from the existing intersection down to the new location of Eagles Way. But that is going to be what the campus looks like. from about April to about September, so when school starts. So if we go to the next drawing, aren't there 4 drawings there? No. Okay, we just did the first one. The only real difference after September, really through construction of the nest, this construction fence will bump out a little bit because that will include some laydown area that we need to do construction of the middle school. And then when the nest is completed, November, December of '23, that fence will open up the nest, and that fence will not include the nest anymore. This yellow area will be the access to the football stadium for the fall. Junior high football, Friday night football, the whole 9 yards, anything else we've got going in there. We are working with the fire department. There'll be, we believe, a secondary means of egress right down through here. Just in case, you know, something was going on in this area, there'd be a secondary means of egress for spectators that are in that stadium. So, and then these red boxes here, those are actually a couple of double-wide trailers. During the work session, Mr. Espy mentioned some temporary trailers for locker rooms. That's what those red boxes will represent. So it gives a little bit of an idea. It's going to be really cramped. We've kind of talked about it, but it's kind of a little bit of a visual. So what does that really look like if you want to go to the next one? I basically just took a Google Earth image of our current campus and drew in those same red lines so you get a little bit of an idea of where that construction fencing will go. Again, this is going to be construction manager offices as well as contractor parking will be in this area. We'll put in a second curb cut off of Wolf Pen so that all the construction workers that are working on site, they'll actually park in this area. And then the old Success Academy modular will be used for contractor offices. We actually just found out yesterday, this is how fluid construction is, just so that people know things change. I'm showing you this today. Next week, it could be slightly different, and that's going to happen for the next 2.5 years. But we actually found out just through some conversations we had with Conger, that 8th grade modular that's there, we are going to be able to continue to use for the next 2.5 years. Currently, that houses our percussion and robotics. Is there another band group in there? Just percussion and robotics. So we'll still be able to utilize that trailer for the next couple of years, and we'll put some fencing up to keep the construction traffic away from our student traffic. And we'll continue to look for efficiencies and things that make life easier on, you know, staff, students, parents, everybody who uses this campus. If you go to the next drawing, it's a little bit of a blown-up view of the parking lot. So again, this red line is where the construction fence will go. The blue line represents kind of what we need to block off for site circulation. So currently, typically in the morning, you know, people will come, buses as well as parents will come in, drop off, they'll come down here, and they leave campus this way. We need to provide that circulation for people to get in and out of the parking lot. So not only will the spots inside the fence go away, but the parking spots between the red and blue lines will also go away when we do this. And it bumps out a little bit here because there'll be a crosswalk. You can see the crosswalks we've got painted. We'll need to put in a crosswalk for students to be able to walk safely from down here and then on up to get into the junior high. Questions?
And the nest, if it goes on budget, on schedule, will open for, not for fall season.
It will not be there for fall season. That's why we have the temporary facilities, the temporary access into Eagle Stadium. We anticipate that we're still The detailed construction schedule is not done. December 1, I'm hoping maybe sometime in November, but right now we're looking, but December 1, that facility would be open and available for use.
Definitely for spring '24.
Yes.
Nice.
Jeff, the displaced parking there, do we have a plan for where those will be?
We're working on it. It's actually on my to-do list is to count up how many spots we have remaining. Obviously, the first priority will be to make sure that our junior high staff has plenty of places to park. That's the first priority. I do have that number from Ms. Getz. So you can kind of see this satellite image was taken during a school day. You can see that there's, you know, a number of spots that are available. So we'll make sure that staff have adequate parking, and then we'll work with the high school staff to talk about, you know, what the high school parking permit situation looks like. The challenge is that our requests for parking from students goes up in the spring because kids turn 16 during the course of the school year. Typically, you know, students who want these parking passes, you know, in the fall are football players, in the winter it's wrestlers, in the spring it's lacrosse and track and field athletes because it's close to their facility, but that facility is not going to be there come April. Whether or not we need to reduce the number of student parking passes that are sold remains to be seen, but that is a possibility.
And I was on the receiving end of the email that said, this year it's closed, no more new parking. Yes.
Just two comments. One, this small campus just got smaller. So we're going to need a lot of patience, a lot of grace as we move through construction. I mean, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
It's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. And to anybody who's listening who, you know, whether you're a staff member, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent who drops off and picks up, at really both the high school and the junior high, but especially the junior high, you know, there are going to be changes coming in April. And as Mr. Spicer said, we really ask for your patience. Take time. It's crowded. It's a busy campus. It's always going to be a busy campus. We're working to try to improve site circulation with this new design, but we're not reducing the number of people on this campus. We're adding to it. There's a lot of people who want to get in, get out. We just, again, ask for your patience while you're doing that, and then obviously also to just pay attention because there's a lot of moving parts on that campus with buses, walkers, drivers, the whole 9 yards.
Just be safe.
And great news about the modular, getting that back for 2 more years for percussion and robotics. That's a huge win for us because we were scrambling a little bit about space for them.
And that's a perfect example of how some things change. You know, we anticipated that the old Success Academy modular would have to be demoed basically right away because of some temporary utilities that need to come onto the site. And after a meeting we had just yesterday afternoon, we realized that those utilities aren't going to have to cross where that existing modular is, meaning we can leave the modular, which, you know, again, we continue to look for little tidbits as we go through this to try to make things. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be a pain for a lot of people, but we're trying to make it ease that pain as much as we can.
And the best news is the outcome is going to be amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's move on. Human Resources Business, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Miranda, members of the board. Asking for your approval of human resources items 1 through 3.
Need a motion to approve Human Resource items 1 through 3 as written.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to Curriculum and Instruction, Superintendent John Spicer.
President Miranda, members of the board, asking for your approval of number 1, foreign exchange student, Cedric Wagner from Germany. Cedric comes to us, of course, from Germany, as I just said, but is involved in community service, lots of activities, badminton, basketball, soccer, kickboxing, martial arts, all kinds of good things. Really excited about him to come. He is our first foreign exchange student for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, I need a motion to approve our first exchange student of supposedly, according to our policy, is not to exceed 4. So first of 4, hopefully.
More the merrier.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Call roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to business operations, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Miranda, members of the board. Asking for your approval of items 1 through 3 in business operations, and once we get a motion, we will have Jeff give further discussion as needed on all 3 items.
Okay, I need a motion to approve item 1 through 3 in the business operations section of your
So
agenda.
moved.
Second.
Discussion?
The first one's the bleacher contract. This is to replace the bleachers on the south side of the stadium. This work is scheduled to take place after the fall sports season. So it won't affect fall sports, not as much goes on in spring. We're hopeful that the new bleachers will be installed before spring sports start. But quite honestly, with most spring sports, if we have to keep people on the north side of the stadium for part of it, I know it's not a huge deal from the crowds we get there. So it'll be about 3,200 seating capacity. If you've been out to Eagle Stadium, you'll notice that the bleachers on the east side of the track, on the D, in between the track and the end of the football field, those have been removed. We're going to be moving our high jump pit there this spring, but this contract will be for Dan Clayton to install new bleachers, and they will basically go from the new light pole to the new light pole, which is about the 10 to the 10.
Can you share why?
Well, first of all, the bleachers that are there are about 35 years old. We've had some problems with those bleachers being damaged over the years. From a safety perspective, they're wide open. I held my granddaughter watching my son play football on those bleachers and scared me to death that she was going to fall through the middle of them. And then it also significantly increases the capacity of our stadium. So I want to say those bleachers have a capacity of about somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000. So it almost doubles the capacity of that set of bleachers. It's also a little bit of a bit bigger press box. So it'll look very similar to the bleachers that are on the north side that we put in 2017. They're just going to be a little bit bigger.
And it will be ADA accessible, correct?
It will be ADA accessible, yes.
And I understand from talking to Josh earlier today, we're going to be able to cut into those bleachers so we can actually get the pit crew up and do the
There's a section for the percussion of the band. I also will say that we've made provisions in the design in this quote that in the student section of these bleachers, there's some added supports underneath the seats to help with some of the problems we've had this past year.
Yeah, those were put in, I think it was 1987, put in by the athletic boosters.
They were put in 1989.
Was it 89? Okay. But I know the athletic boosters did that, and it was like a big erector set. They came in with their wrenches, and then they built them.
Nice plug.
Okay.
The flooring contract, so there was discussions of moving the weight room that is currently out in the old transportation garage that will be demolished due to the middle school construction. through a lot of meetings and looking what the nest is going to look like. It made a lot of sense to move the weight room into the auxiliary gym in the high school. So what this contract is for is with Cincinnati Floor to put a new rubber floor in over top of that gym floor. They will actually saw cut the floor for reasons of moisture and being able to get moisture out. Put in a 1/2-inch layer of plywood on top of the existing gym floor, and then a 16-millimeter rubber floor goes on top of that. And then we'll be able to, that'll be sufficient and adequate for a weight room facility. That weight room facility will be the only weight room facility we have at the high school, so it will kind of combine the two we have. So we've got the one out by the Robbins building, and there is one in the high school. And then, so all of our athletic teams will use it, as well as the PE students. Part of the HVAC upgrades that the board has already approved will be to add air conditioning to that auxiliary gym that does not currently exist. So that will happen this summer as well as part of those HVAC upgrades we're doing at the high school. And then the last item, the security improvements. The board several months ago approved the pre-purchase of equipment to upgrade locks in the high school and across the district. So we are going to finally have a true master keying system in our high school. My maintenance and custodial staff and administrative staff won't have a ring of keys this big to have to get into all the doors, which I've done some after-action studying of the swatting incident that happened at Princeton High School this fall, and God forbid that would happen to us and have to get in and check every door in the high school. Would be a nightmare just from the keying process. So we started looking at this a couple years ago. So in addition to upgrading the master keying system at the high school, we'll have electronic door locks on all the classroom doors. And we're also upgrading our access control system across the district. So all of our elementary schools will have an improved access control system that'll be in the same database as the ones for the electronic classroom locks. And as Mr. Espy mentioned in the work session, it's a little over $500,000 total budget. The board's already approved, and we've written a purchase order for about half of that to buy that electronic equipment. This contract is for the manual locks as well as the installation of everything, and about half of that, $250,000, is being covered by the OFCC security grants that we secured this fall.
Okay, any questions from the board? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. This brings us to our second public participation. Do we have anyone?
Yes, Mr. Kevin McDarty.
We can share.
Doing fine. No, and a reminder that after you state your name and address, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Kevin McDarty.
Oh, wait.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Kevin McDarty, 5797 Wilney Drive, Milford, Ohio. Resident in Milford for 38-plus years. Here, what I got here is a thing that I put together for you to look at. I was part of a Pathways Committee back in 1997, involved in a car accident out on 28, got involved in the Pathways project by Larry Funk, who used to be our township administrator. I couldn't walk anywhere without a sidewalk, and I was badly, severely injured with many surgeries. So therefore, I got on the committee, and the committee worked diligently to put the master plan of all the sidewalks you see in this county. We put it together. Now, that being said, we're now doing a school, and the school is going to require that that sidewalk be taken out in the front. That sidewalk has pavers in it, lots of them that were bought by Milford residents, AKA me, and one of them's for my daughter that we lost. That being said, one of those, and you'll see in my summary here, the pavers and the cost, I was involved in getting the contractor for this job. That being said, one of those donated bricks that was bought was $5,000 from an individual in memorial of that person, which is in this report here for you. That being said, there's 150 bricks there. We need to take them back out and put them and utilize them somewhere else on the campus. I talked to Jeff. Jeff's my neighbor, actually, and he didn't know about all this. And I said, we need to install them at some point somewhere. Now, the next one is about the stone in the back. My son is a graduate of Milford High School, Eagle Scout. That's his project at the back entrance, that big stone you see there. I've been maintaining that for the last 13 years. I paint the eagle. I put all the stuff, take care of cutting back the flowers and do the maintenance on it for you. So that being said, there's $2,200 in that, and that being said, that some of that money came from the PTA. It's designed to have that stone be yanked out of there, so it could be moved again. We talked about it back in '09, so therefore that stone could be put somewhere else on the campus, so we can reuse that. The last thing real quick here. There's a thing that's out there, it's called Kindness 101 for Teachers. And it's done by Steve Hartman, On the Road program. Have you seen that? And they have this set up. It doesn't cost us anything. And teachers are using this, like about 35,000 of them, are showing kids video in the morning of kindness. This has inspired kids to do things. You need to go watch this. The last one was just a few weeks ago, or yesterday, or no, Sunday maybe it might have been, where these kids up in Minnesota saw kids that were in wheelchairs. Did you see that? Wasn't that amazing? They decided that they wanted to build a special needs playground, and the teacher put them to work. They raised $300,000, these kids did, to do what they needed to do to build it for those kids. So that being said, it's free. And they have one, you can see the teacher, where they came and did the teacher, who Steve Hartman showed up, and guess what? He shows it every day to the kids. And what has happened has been unbelievable. If we don't do it, we need to at least do a pilot program. I think it's really good that we try it to see what we get. One last real quick thing.
Thank you.
The engineer.
No. We are over. We talked about this before. Appreciate it. That will be
Please
fine,
do.
and feel free to engage with us somewhere along the line as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Do we have any more?
John, anyone
Yeah,
else?
that's it. Sorry.
That is it? Okay. The next regular board meeting will be Thursday, February the 16th, 2023, in this room. Have discussion from the board? Any comments from the board here?
I do. As we kick off this new year, I took some time to reflect on last year. And so this time last year, our board had collective experience of 4 years, 2 for me and 2 for Dave. And I'm really proud of all the work that we did last year. I think it shows that we now have 9 years of experience up here. And what I appreciate about this board, as I've served on my 3 years, is the other 7 members that I've served with, you and the previous folks, have all challenged me to think and look at things differently than I would on my own. 16 eyes are better than 2. And throughout my career, I've learned that a high-functioning team isn't one person directing a group of others. Instead, it's a whole team of people who lead from where they are to make the team successful. And I think we're each charged to be leaders where we are. Being a leader doesn't come from a title, it comes from the work that we do. In my past year, leadership, I've helped to move forward 3 of the big accomplishments we had last year. Early in the year, we had a professional development coach that partnered with John, and I was able to find her and partner with her and John throughout the year, and I love the results we've seen, and John and Elizabeth met multiple times and have rolled it out to the rest of his team. I think that's been really great. Then as the year got to the middle, the treasurer and the superintendent reviews, I wrote up the templates for both of those, and we were able to finish and give Brian's as the treasurer efficiently and effectively by seeking feedback from his team. And we delivered that in September. The previous year had been November, so we're getting closer and closer to being on what we'd call on time. And then with Brian, our treasurer, leaving for a new opportunity, it opened a key role that as a board member, we are responsible for. We're only responsible for hiring 2 people. There's 2 seats that sit to our right. And we had an opportunity to work with finding leaders and make sure that our search was all-inclusive of the state. For every one, there are 1.5 treasurer positions for every 1 certified treasurer in the state of Ohio. So it is not an easy position to fill. And I led that work with finding leaders, and we have an awesome treasurer here that I'm looking forward to working with. And then looking forward to this year, I've written up SMART goals. For those who've been in meetings, you've heard that before, but I've written up 3 for myself. I'm happy to share with folks. But focusing on my role as VP, working with the treasurer in his new role, continuing to learn as a board member from peers and professional organizations, and continuing my community connection. I hear questions and engage in conversations with community members when I'm out in the community throughout the year. Scouting events and sports games, PTO events, church, even Kroger. And I appreciate that people are comfortable enough to ask me even the simplest, how does this work? Or why do you guys do that? I welcome anyone to stop by or reach out to me. If you have questions, I want people to learn how the board works, and I want to hear your feedback. As for the board work this year, we have some big things coming. We've kind of talked about that. And I appreciate the work that we've had together as a board already. So Melissa and I chatting between the last meeting about what does committees look like and what makes the most sense for us. And one of Jerry's favorite sayings is, it's always been done like this, right? You like that word? But challenging, why have things been done that way? And I think as a younger board, we have the opportunity to kind of ask the whys and the how might we's. So we're just a few weeks in, but I'm really excited about what we're going to accomplish together as a team, and cheers to all of the leaders in the community, whether that's folks up here or everybody in the room who helps Milford be a better place. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to do an abridged version of the good news report here, so we can try to streamline this a little bit. It does tend to get a little long because I like to hear my voice. Good news report, 30-year anniversary for the 1992-93 girls Final Four team. That was held during Christmas break. I got to go back and listen to some of the kids from that time period that got up and spoke, along with their coach, Ted Dixon, and Aaron put together a wonderful program. I've heard that at least a dozen times, and it's always good to get some people that we haven't seen in a long time back in the building. And I know some of those people we hadn't seen in 10 years or more, so it was nice to have them back. Here's one. Congratulations to the Milford High School stock market team. Didn't know we had a stock market team until a few weeks ago, who placed 2nd in the state of Ohio for the first semester. Statewide, there were 556 teams that competed, so they were 2nd out of 556. Members of the team are team captain Henry Cooper, team members Lisa Bell, Tegan Thatcher, and Isaiah Bell. So congratulations to them. On the 14th, which was Saturday, the band performed at Disney, and I hear they did an outstanding job. And that's once every 3 years, correct? Once every 4 years, so all those people have done their duty, and it'll be a new class that goes through the next time. Dates to remember. Polar Plunge for Special Olympics will be held on January 28th outside the Reds Hall of Fame down by the banks. All monies raised from the team of people from Milford come back to the Claremont County Special Olympics, who is Raise your hand if you're going to be plunging.
Yeah, Sarah, grab over there. Raise it a little bit higher, Sarah. We can't see you. Yes, I did it. I was a lone wolf last year, so
The
we
team
got
is not
10 more.
closed. The team is not closed.
Anybody who still wants to step up is more than welcome.
We have raised about $5,000 to date, which is great. I don't know that we can be number one. They're about 13,000 right now for number one. The team, they've got 26 people, but if we could get second, that'd be great. We need probably need about 6,000 or 7,000. We can get there.
And getting money back to the Special Olympics. Both Emily
Yes.
and I have experience with the Special Olympics personally, so that's a great group. They do a lot of things, and we look forward to getting them a big pile of money so they can do
Yeah,
all the.
most importantly, that money comes back to Claremont County
Correct.
that we raise which is great.
Okay, this is a little bit confusing, but I understand, and you will shortly. Has anybody ever seen the movie Hoosiers? Because our girls' basketball team will be going to the home court of the Hickories and playing a game against Harrison on January the 28th in the afternoon. So if you ever wanted to go to a movie site, that's an opportunity to do it, and that was an outstanding sports movie, one of the best. So that is going to be on January 28th, and if you need more information, you can get a hold of Mr. Zupka, and he will certainly help you. Milford Athletic Hall of Fame, having their induction on the 4th, and we always do that prior to the varsity basketball game. This year it's against Harrison, so it's time to come out, watch those people get inducted, and also see a good basketball team play a good game. Milford, Josh mentioned all the theater productions, Pride and Prejudice, the 10th and 11th of February, The Wizard of Oz, the 17th and 18th of March, and the junior high school version of Wizard of Oz, the 24th and the 25th of March. So get online and get tickets. Those tickets sell out fast. There's going to be a Robbins Building Wrestling reunion on March 24th. The Robbins Building is being torn down. We mentioned that several times here tonight. They want to have one last go-around to go in there and kind of share their memories before that has the axe swung on it. There's going to also be a baseball reunion held on April 29th. I don't know that we have all the details on that yet, but it's a reunion for the 2002 and 2003 teams that went to the finals of the state tournament and were runners-up both times, and those were great and very close games. Milford Prom's Saturday, April 29th. I know we're getting out there a little bit, but people have to buy dresses and stuff. That'll be at the Oasis that it has been in the past. And last thing of the year, graduation is May 20th at the Centos Center. It's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Anybody have anything else? Okay. As a board, we are going to go into executive session. I need a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of considering employment of a public employee.
So moved.
Second.
As part of the discussion, we will not be coming back when that is done. So when we adjourn, we will adjourn from in there. So we will be leaving from here. So we appreciate your attendance. We look forward to seeing you next month, and have a nice rest of your evening. I need a motion. Do we get motions?
We have motions.
Okay, then call the roll.
Mrs. Nolan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Combs?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes, thank you. Good night.